John Gibson, and then you could maybe hope that this offense finds a way to get going if they're 100% healthy for the entire season with Patrick Eves back. I don't know. What do you think? Where do you think they finish?
I have a hard time seeing them beyond middling offensively. I mean, Randy Carlyle obviously is more of a defensive coach, likes to play heavy along the boards. He's not a freewheeling thinker as you look at over that Gerard Gallant team over in Vegas and how they free flow their offense back and forth. And they're not star-studded. You don't have a Tampa Bay lineup. You don't have a Winnipeg Jets lineup. You don't have a Nashville lineup. Anybody who looks at this team and legitimately thought they were going to win a cup this year, I mean, you have to kind of wonder what they were looking at. This team plays well in stretches, but putting up against the league's best over a 7-game series, it's really hard to see them just roll over teams. I did not see them getting outplayed this series as badly as they have through 3 games. Yeah. I get there is a statistical chance where they're able to come back and win this game, or win this series rather, in 7. But looking ahead to next season, they need to find something to change this offense, because Ryan Getzlaf is where all the offensive blood flows through. And if you're going to clog him up with guys who cut at the half wall and throw to the point in the 4th man, and you can't get a shot through, or pulled up at the half wall and throw it back to the point to a guy who gets a shot block, or a guy who loses the puck, you got to figure out something else that's offensively going to happen for you. Because I feel like during these playoffs, I mean, you're just looking at the Sharks team. It seems so easy for San Jose to counterattack the Ducks. It's kind of a wonder how this Ducks team was able to win so many down the stretch and not get clogged up. If the Sharks team has been able to figure them out so quick. I mean, you gave a lot of credit to DeBoer, but I mean, how much do we look at more of a personnel on the coaching side of things or the GM side of things rather than the player side of things for changes?
Yeah, I mean, it's so tough because I feel like nothing happens. No matter what, you get swept. You could lose 8-1 again tomorrow, and I just feel like Randy Carlyle and is back no matter what. And Randy Carlyle is back if Bob Murray is there. And I don't think Bob Murray's gone. I don't think the owners fire him or whatnot. I feel like he's still here next year. And if he's still here, I believe he has enough confidence that Randy Carlyle is the coach to get it done. And it's hard for a general manager to give up on such a big decision. I mean, it basically, you're admitting defeat if you fire Carlyle now, right? I feel like based off his comments already, you think that he thinks that this team is better, and if he assumed that he had some confidence in Randy Carlyle going into next season, I feel like he just waits it out one more year and sees what happens. As tragic as it sounds, I feel like that's the likely option for the Ducks next year.
Well, if you break up with your girlfriend and then start dating somebody else and then break up with them and then call up your ex-girlfriend again and bring her back into the fold of your life, it's kind of hard to break up with her again and say it's her fault. Just kind of throwing that out there between Bob Murray and Randy Carlyle. I mean, honestly, that's what happened. He got fired. Bring in Bruce Boudreau, and then you fire Bruce, and then you rehire Randy, and then you got to fire Randy at some point, and bring in somebody else. There's other coaches available. You're going to see more coaches kind of fall off this summer, I feel like, that are going to be available. But it's not going to happen. I know you and I have said this several times on the show, so I'm not going to try to change my opinion here. We all know Randy Carlyle is not going to get fired, and we all know that Bob Murray's not going to get fired. They got a freebie this year due to all the injuries, and that's just the way it's going to be. But this team's core is aging. For anyone to say that this Ducks team's window is wide open and they have all the time in the world to figure it out, they don't have a young gun coming up to solve this offensive problem they have here. They don't. There's no one slotting in 1C or on left wing to help out. There's nobody. You got Ricard Raquel, you got Ryan Getzlaf, and that Henrique line has been money off and on. And when it's on, it's great, but when it's off, it's awful. And there's nobody else to back them up. The Kessler line's not been scoring enough, and the 4th line's not chipping in as much as we need them to be. So where does this offense come from? We just said the coaching is not going to change. The GM's not going to change. It's tough to change the players. So are we really going to go down and say nothing's going to happen this offseason because of the cap hell the Ducks are in with all the no-move clause? Is that what we kind of finished up here? We don't see any changes along the board here?
Yeah, is that really what's going to happen? Yeah, I honestly think so because, do we really realistically think that if Bob Murray believes that this team is going to be better, that he wasn't willing to give up whatever he wasn't willing to give up for Patch Reddy or for Vander Kane at the deadline, that he's going to all of a sudden be okay with giving up at the draft, and that there's really any room to make that happen, or any room to make any defensive changes here. I mean, that's the only place I see changes getting made is for that bottom pairing. Boschman is gone. You can assume that BX is going to be gone.
Or the fourth line. You're going to see Grant and then Chimera and Captain Canada are going to disappear for sure.
You Grant could be back. JT Brown
we said he would be, sorry. But I mean, Chimera and Captain Canada.
But that's not going to really change much. And then, maybe they go with the kids there. And again, maybe they go with the kids on the back end for that third pairing. Nothing else changes. I mean, the goaltenders are going to be the same. The top 9 is going to be the same. The top 4 defensemen are going to be the same. The coach is going to be the same. The general manager is going to be the same. The only way that anything can change is maybe you insert one of the kids into the lineup out of training camp, like Sam Steele, Max Jones, Troy Terry, and see what they can do. But again, where do they fit and who do they bump out of the lineup? It just, nobody at this point. You know what I mean? And we talked about the last show, the only guys we could really see are Nick Ritchie and maybe Andrew Cogliano, because I don't believe he's a second-line forward, and that's no... I'm not trying to be critical of him, but he's just not a second line forward when you're thinking of a guy who can drive offense and contribute. He's got
a no trade clause too, by the way.
Yeah, so he's not going anywhere. But I honestly think, and as depressing as it sounds, but I feel like a lot of people agree, there's probably going to be no big change. I'd be surprised if one of Randy Carlyle or Bob Murray weren't back next year, and you would assume if Bob Murray gets fired that Randy Carlyle would be out the door with him. So I have no idea what's going to happen that's going to change things around. I think we're going to see very minimal changes and a lot more disappointed Ducks fans, just like we saw at the deadline.
So looking at cap friendly, I'm seeing Corey Perry, no move clause till 21-22. Ryan Getzlaf, no move clause till 21-22. Ryan Kessler, no move clause until 22-23. Patrick Eaves, modified no trade clause till 2020-2021. Andrew Cogliano, no trade clause until 21-22. And then I think that's it. Going down the line, you got some expiring contracts that were modified no trade clause or no move clauses that expire. So, yeah, the core of the team will be intact. You're not going to trade Rickard Rakell. I don't see the point in trading a Jakob Silfverberg because he puts up 20 goals a season and he's getting third-line minutes. Yeah, I'd have to agree. It's going to be real interesting going into the offseason what kind of changes we're going to see. But, I mean, you're pretty much barring a crazy move by Bob Murray that's going to send a marquee forward somewhere. You're looking at your team for next season. It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
I saw some people saying things about Corey Perry, like you got to move Corey Perry. Like, really? You're going to move $8.6 million off the cap to where?
Who's taking him? At this point in his career for that much money with the way he's been producing, and it's not like he's inspired any confidence with his play in the playoffs and some of the dumb moves that he's made. Nobody's taking him, really. And if they are, you're not getting anything back for him because all the value you could get for him goes out the window with the $8.6 million contract. It's gone. It's the same situation in a way that Ottawa has with trying to move Bobby Ryan in his $7 million contract. I mean, they're just plugging him into any deal to dump salary at this point and not really expecting any return for him. So you're not going to get anything for him. You might as well keep him in the lineup. I feel like keeping him in and the fact that he can still hit around 50 points is a lot more valuable than getting nothing for him and just shipping him out. I mean, if you're trading him, you're rebuilding at that point. You're not getting anything in return to make this team better. And you'd mentioned the same thing with if you're moving Jakob Silfverberg. Unless you're bringing in another player, you're essentially moving him out because you're rebuilding. So it's a real interesting offseason and turning point for the Ducks this year to see what they're going to do. I feel like they do nothing, and they just kind of keep the group that they have and try to give it one more go. They have one more go next year and see how things turn out. So it's so disappointing. And the post-game comments from some of the players that I'm seeing right now, don't inspire confidence for Game 4, to be honest. I mean, Francois Beauchemin said 8-1 in the playoffs, tough to digest for sure, but we'll respond. Well, where was that response from Game 2 and tonight, right? I mean, don't have any confidence that they'll respond, and then you have Josh Manson saying, we know what happened, it's embarrassing, it's not good enough, now it's do or die. I mean, well, it wasn't not do or die tonight. If you don't win this game, then you're down 3-0, and of course they end up losing. It's almost just cop-out answers. It's just answers that, you lost 8-1. You're just trying to kind of dance around the question a bit. Because, these are games where you should have been responding for last game, and you should have been prepared for a do-or-die game, and they weren't.
Well, jumping into the chat here, Chris Smith says they could trade Richie, and then James follows up with Richie. That's something you and I have kind of talked about. I mean, he's really the only piece that would move that would make sense. I mean, you know what he is. You know what kind of value he provides this Ducks team. Maybe somebody's going to overvalue him somewhere. I mean, I'm always a big proponent of GMs are dumb, and they like to make dumb trades to help out their buddies, or they just like make hockey trades just because.
Yeah.
For whatever reason. I don't know what to tell you about them. I mean, just go look at Peter Chiarelli or go look at Mark Bergevin and tell me how great of a GM those guys are, giving up just incredible assets for bags of pucks. So, I mean, there is always something to be gained by a player, and Nick Ritchie's not trash. Not saying that whatsoever. He was just picked really high and had high expectation and was not fitting where that expectation sits. Nick Ritchie is definitely an option, I feel like, here. I mean, you would still agree with that? I mean, I kind of just want to just answer that question real quick.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And we definitely have to get into the chat here because I feel like we've neglected our listeners so far because there's a lot of conversation in the chat, so we'll get to that after this. But I feel like it's still an option because he hasn't been good. I mean, the last time we criticized him, we looked and we dove in the numbers, and he was actually playing pretty well for a stretch there with Adam Henrique and Andre Kasha, and then they kind of disappeared. And he's just been underwhelming, and a lot of that, again, comes to the fact that he was a former 10th overall pick, and you expected so much from him. I mean, if he was a third-round, fourth-round pick, we'd be like, okay, whatever. We're happy with the 20, 30 points that he can provide and the nastiness and the edge he brings to his game. But it's the fact that you look at some of the players you could have got at that pick, and it's disappointing. And I feel like that's where all the criticism stems from. So maybe they decide to move on. I don't know. I mean, it opens up a hole then for one of the younger kids if you want to move on. Maybe you go out and you grab another draft pick, whether it be a third, a second. I mean, that's even high, again, a second. But you're banking on that some team's willing to pay for his potential there. And then you kind of retool a bit by grabbing that draft pick, and then you maybe throw in Troy Terry, or you throw in Max Jones or Sam Steele if they're ready, and hope that that changes things a bit. I mean, I'd be all for that because I feel like we've seen what we're going to see from Nick Ritchie, and he necessarily doesn't fit the way that this team should be playing in the long term. And I feel like trying to see what Troy Terry or Sam Steele or Max Jones could bring to this team earlier rather than later could be interesting, because if they fit in the lineup right away, if for example of a guy I would love to just light it up in his first season, and I don't know if he will necessarily, it's a huge jump, but Sam Steele, I mean, if he can produce like we think he will eventually in the NHL in his first season, that's a huge boost to their offense right there. I mean, you get a guy in your top 9 who is offense first, who definitely thinks the game at a higher level than Nick Ritchie, and can provide that boost to your offense that you're looking for and become another threat. I mean, I don't think it happens, but that would be a better option than having Nick Ritchie in the lineup. And if you can go out and get a second-round pick for Nick Ritchie and just plug in a guy who's ultimately better that you have in your system right now, I mean, why not? It kind of kills two birds with one stone.
Or even put Troy Terry on that line.
Yeah.
I mean, if you wanted to throw out a player who's been, not utilized whatsoever in the playoffs, put Troy Terry in place of Nick Ritchie and see what happens in the long term next season, and then trade Ritchie for assets. Troy Terry is obviously somebody that everybody's wanted to see play. He hasn't got the minutes. I want to answer something really quick from Dean H. in our chat. Kevin Bieksa is out the door next year, right? He put the question mark. Yes, he is.
Well, at the end of this season, so yeah.
Yes. Barring a end-of-year incredible signing by our very much beloved Bob Murray. If he gives him a 1 year, $1 million, that's the only way he stays, I would feel like, unless you got some other ridiculous contract up his sleeve and money he wants to give away. But all points look to Kevin Bieksa being out and Beauchemin retiring. And Bieksa, it's just not in his prime. I'm not trying to trash the guy. Just not in his prime. He's just not that guy that we need to look to make plays. He's been burned several times. He didn't look great last game.